This is a topic that I've wanted to cover for quite some time now. The Fnaf community is a very diverse bunch of people. From the theorists in their MatPat corner of YouTube to the YouTubers who built and were simultaneously built by this game franchise, to the developers starting off their careers learning by making their first fan game. It delves into all corners of the fan base. Now, where we started tends to vary from fan to fan, but personally, I have a decent view on the beginning, seeing as I was a small child at the time. It's kind of a weird thing seeing as I was a small kid and I got to grow up alongside this game. I developed as the game developed, changed as a person while the game was changing itself. I like to see myself as a prime example for what this community is shaped by. I shaped myself from the game, building myself as a person due to my interest in the game, and as I grew up along with others in this boat, the game, so to say, grew up with us or matured. It's part of the reason this is my favorite game franchise. I got to see it mature and develop over time with me as a person. Oh yeah, the evolution of the fan base. Earlier I was talking about how I see myself as one of the prime examples for the fandom. Most of the fan base was young when this game came out, including me. We were either joining in on the conversation with Fnaf 1 or 2, back when the debate was if Fnaf 2 was a prequel or a sequel. Man, those lunch table discussions were heated. With most of the community growing up with the game, and for the most part, the game being a story-driven game, not dependent on its gameplay style. The game had to change with the community. That, or hope that it would draw in younger members as the games continued. We obviously now know which path the games and Scott took. The beginning of the community is a really weird thing to talk about. I'd seen videos on the game everywhere and actually just began watching one of my family members playing it on their laptop when they came over. I don't really know why it enticed me the way it did, but obviously it enticed everybody else or the game wouldn't have been as popular as it was. MatPat released a video on this game a short time later. Actually, when he was still recording in his closet in his early days of his channel. Seeing gameplay videos of Five Nights at Freddy's all over YouTube, a huge rabbit hole taking the internet by storm. The first Fnaf hoax became a thing with the game's popularity skyrocketing. Sparky the dog. I actually made a whole video about this and other Fnaf hoaxes a couple weeks ago, so if you want to check that out, go check it out after this video. That kind of tells you where the game went from there. Around now in Fnaf 2 is where the popularity reached new highs. The community boomed in the population, and we started getting theories left and right. Some from MatPat, and some from 8-Bit Ryan, and other Fnaf YouTubers. Like I said a second ago, hoaxes got big too, and we see how many affected the popularity of these games. With the great fan base boom of '87, we saw the rise of fan-made projects. We began seeing real fan art, OCs, fan games, animations on YouTube, and etc. We were a really messy combination of kids, young adults, and adults in the fan base. We all wished for different things in it. As Fnaf 3 rolled around the corner though, we began to centralize as a community and no longer lean on the topic of a free roam Fnaf game. Fnaf 3 was something that got the community together and for the most part collectively found how we wanted to continue our huge fan base. Theories. And oh boy did we thrive on that. The game was being picked apart faster than ever. Days within the game's release, we were discussing good versus bad endings. We had found our spot in the community. For the most part, this stayed consistent with the next game's installation, Fnaf 4. Apart from the whole Dream Theory thing, which was something that we'll get into in a different video. We as a community were known for our crazy, wild theories and following an insane game with an even more insane lore with our tinfoil hats on. We had reached the end of our story of Fnaf. Most of us were happy with how the journey was and how it ended. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Fnaf World appeared. 99% of the community hated it, but it eventually opened up the doors to what was Sister Location. By the way, I loved Fnaf World. Scott saw that we were hungry for more and gave us another. We went back to what we did best and theorized the crud out of this game. I remember that I was old enough to effectively analyze a trailer for the first time. I was pointing out random things in the video to my poor father, who looked at me as I was shaking with a tinfoil hat on my head in the front seat of a car. Then it went silent. Surely the game was meant to tie up the loose ends of the original story, and nothing more. Nope. A while later, we get this teaser. I personally was a theorizer at this point in time and began talking to my friends like a madman, saying things like, it's like Fnaf 2, guys. Fnaf 2. We got Pizza Simulator, and the community began to get diverse again. We had always been diverse, but for the most part, theorizers at heart. OCs were becoming relevant again. With the release of the last 3 games, we kind of hit a shifting point in the game's core audience. This is the part of the video where I talk about something a little bit more serious. This community is something I've loved and always will love to be a part of. I've wanted to voice my opinion on this for quite some time now, but I never really found a good way to say it. This community is the most creative one that I have ever had the pleasure of being a part of, but it's also one of the most hateful ones. When something changes or doesn't turn out the way we hope it would, we all start a riot. The developers throw away their joy for fame. The YouTubers became rude to other YouTubers. Something changed with us, and I genuinely miss how it used to be. We're seen as a bunch of hateful internet trolls hiding behind computers to most people. I have friends who stay away from the games completely, solely because of how the community is now, when I know for a fact that they'd love the story and the lore of these games. It's genuinely sad to see this happen, but I hope that we can change to be seen as creative again, how we used to be, so our community continues. The ones who grew up with these games were either adults now, or were transitioning into that time period of their life. The fan base grew, and we had a new wave of kids in the fan base. Personally, I was a bit skeptical of this, seeing as the game was meant to be a horror game with pretty dark lore. But then I realized that it was better to let others grow up with the experience that I grew up loving, hoping to see them get the same passion for this franchise that I have for it now. They're kind of in their Fnaf 2 stage right now, where it's crazy and a little bit cringy. But if me now were to saw what me then was doing for the Fnaf community during Fnaf 2, I'd think it was a bit cringe too. I'm genuinely excited to see how the community grows and continues to change, especially with Security Breach bringing in a whole new population for the community, from speedrunners to just people who were loving the idea of a free roam FNAF game during FNAF 3. And before the ending of the video, thank you, Scott, for the beautiful games and place you made for us to grow up in. See you guys next time. Have a good one. Bye.